The final shape is finally starting to get closer and closer as we speak. We have almost 2 months left before the release, and with the launch of Into the Light around the corner, I know a lot of people are about to hop back into Destiny. With that, I wanted to put together a preparation guide for the final shape so you can be prepared for things like a legendary campaign and even the day 1 raid if that's something you want to accomplish. If you are jumping on to check out the new content, or even if you're just trying to finish some red borders, now is the perfect time to begin prepping. Now, I do want to point out that this isn't needed, and if you want to take the game slow, you totally can do so. However, if you do plan on doing things like the day 1 raid, I would highly recommend at least trying to do some of these things because it will help you out in the long run. I will have a spreadsheet linked down below that lists everything out over there, and you can follow that along to make sure you are ready to go for when the final shape launches. This took a lot of time and effort to put together, so I hope you all can enjoy and get something out of it. And if you do, consider subscribing and dropping a like. It's free. It really does go a long way, and I truly appreciate it. So without further ado, if you're a new, returning, or veteran player, let's jump into how we're going to make your final shape experience even better than what it was already going to be. So to begin our preparation journey, let's take a look at bounties, arguably the most important thing when it comes to prepping for a new expansion. They will give you a ton of experience as soon as the expansion launches, which leads to more power level, artifact perks, and even battle pass unlocks, which can grant you access to new weapons early, faster catalyst progression, and even materials. So with all that, you can already start to see how important these little squares can be. Now, there are a ton of bounties in Destiny, but there are some specific ones that you should prioritize saving. Weekly bounties are going to grant you the most experience, so obviously you want to try to save as much of them as possible. Dailies will grant the next most, and you should almost never save any repeatable bounties. So starting off with weeklies, you have Eris's bounties, which just consist of you doing Authors of Sorrow and 3 of the Moon Lost sectors. Right next to Eris, you have the Lectern's bounties, which consist of defeating nightmares in lost sectors and nightmare hunts. You pretty much can do Eris's bounties and the Lectern bounties at the exact same time, so be sure to keep that in mind when you are going to collect those. Next up is going to be Shao-Han bounties, which are extremely easy to do. These just consist of defeating enemies with Solar Arc and Void while also just doing public events. Nimbus even has one that you should save, and this just requires you to do a terminal overload alongside getting strain kills in a Vex incursion zone. Star Horse has one that varies, but these are typically extremely easy to do if you do get Star Horse's favor in Dares of Eternity. Just note that these do require strange coins to buy, and you can only hold 1. Varix actually has 4 weekly bounties, 1 that is permanent and just requires you to do things on Europa, and 3 that rotate each week. These pretty much just want you to do every single Empire hunt alongside getting some kills. Similar to Varix, the Dreaming City has 7, 1 that is permanent and that just wants you to do Blind Well, and then 6 that rotate every week. These 6 are just for completing the Ascendant challenges, and all of those are relatively easy. You just have to be aware that since these do rotate, if you are 6 weeks out from the expansion, you have to start that week if you want to save all of those weekly bounties. Now, the final weekly bounties are going to come from Hawthorne. These are going to rotate every single week, and they are just going to involve doing things with clanmates. Some can range from having to play 10 games of Gambit, while others are just getting Assist in Crucible. Now, she does also have one that requires you to beat a raid or even a Nightfall, but with the Nightfall one, you do have to be clan level 6 before you can even purchase this bounty. Unfortunately, Hawthorne does have the most weekly bounties, but they can be extremely tedious to do. And then if playing 10 Gambit games wasn't tedious enough, you do have to remember that since these are clan bounties, you do have to be playing with a clanmate for these to progress. So the best advice I can give is just to find someone else that is prepping, join their clan or they can join yours, and you can just grind out these bounties together. Who knows, you might even make a new best friend along the way. So after you have saved all the weeklies, you can now move on to dailies. Like I said at the start, never save repeatable bounties. For your dailies, and make sure to stock up on planetary bounties. The reason you don't want to save bounties from any of the tower vendors is because if you turn 8 of them in, you will be granted a powerful or pinnacle gear drop, and you want to save that for when you hit the soft cap in the final shape. Completing these early could potentially ruin you out of some extra power level, and you're typically gonna be playing Vanguard strikes and all those activities, so you're gonna be doing these bounties anyway once the final shape comes out. So for that reason, I typically just stock up on all the EDZ, Nessus, and Cosmodrome bounties, just because most of these are extremely easy to do. So now that you know the bounties that you should save, how many should you save? So for me personally, I always try to save 60 bounties on each character. With 3 characters, that will equal up to 180 bounties total for the launch. And again, all of these are going to consist of all the weekly bounties and then just the filler daily bounties. The reason I recommend saving 60 is so you will have some extra slots still available just in case you have to pick up a quest or if one randomly drops when you first load into the final shape. Nothing would be worse than saving up all those bounties just for the game to bug out because you can't pick up a quest, or even worse, it does pick it up, out but deletes all your bounties. But that is pretty much it when it comes to bounty prepping, and as a TLDR, remember to save all the weeklies and then just do planetary ones until you reach 60 bounties on 3 characters. In my spreadsheet, I will have all the bounties you need to save listed with a checkbox beside them so you can confirm the ones you have done, and if there are any more weeklies when Into the Light launches, I will make a note in the description of this video, and I will also update the spreadsheet so you know to grab those as well. Enough talking about bounties though, frankly I'm quite tired of it. Let's jump into the next super fun thing, and that is resources. With resources, I'm basically just using a word to group together materials, currency, and consumables, and just like in real life, it's always nice to be rich when it comes to having as many of them as possible. Something you never want to worry about during a time of a new expansion is if you have enough resources to upgrade or buy something. You'll have more things on your mind, namely the expansion, and you don't want to find yourself constantly checking your inventory over and over again. So I wanted to compile what resources you should be worried about and how many of them you should have going into the final shape. Starting off with the easiest, let's talk about Glimmer. You get this stuff pretty much anywhere, and the max you can hold is 500,000. I would highly recommend maxing that out before the launch, and if you want to save more, you can always store the Other Side Sparrow or Zavala's Authority ship in your vault. Now the reason you want to save these is because when you dismantle them, you will get 5,000 Glimmer. So all you have to do is basically just buy a bunch of these, store them in your vault, and now your vault is basically a bank just holding a ton of Glimmer. With legendary shards going away in the final shape, Glimmer could become even more relevant, so this might be a safe thing to do. Ascendant Shards are up next, and I would highly recommend getting to the max, which is 30. You can no longer save these in your Postmaster, but you technically can save them in your vault if you upgrade an exotic all the way and then dismantle it later. I don't personally think this is super necessary to do, but I would highly recommend getting them to the max so you can upgrade any new exotics or legendary armor you get. These honestly aren't super rare to come by anymore, but the best place to farm for these is for sure going to be Grandmaster Nightfalls. Now, ones that are a little rare to come by are Ascendant Alloys. Even though these can be a little bit more difficult to get, I would highly recommend maxing these out at 30 as well. There's a good chance there will be new craftable weapons alongside a potential new meta, and you want to be ready to add those enhanced traits to those weapons. Bungie has also stated that we will be able to upgrade our normal perks on non-crafted guns into enhanced ones, and I imagine that is going to consist of using alloys. So to farm alloys, the best place you can get them is going to be from the weekly story missions on master difficulty. You can wait for a very easy and short mission, then just speed run it, and you typically get one of these pretty much every other run. Now, if that isn't your thing, you do also have the coil, and if you get to max score and get to that final loot room, these chests do have a pretty high chance at dropping Ascendant Alloys. I personally just farmed the Ghost weekly mission from Witch Queen, as it's really easy to do, and again, you get one pretty much every other run. Now moving on, we do have Enhancement Prisms. The max you can hold for these are 100, and it's something I would highly recommend maxing out. Just like Ascendant Shards, these are going to be needed to upgrade any new armor or exotic that you get. Now the best place to farm for these are going to be in Grandmasters, but that's honestly a good thing, because if you are farming for Ascendant Shards, you will also just get these to drop as well, and you can max them out both at the same time. Now I'm sure a lot of you want to know about Enhancement Cores. I get asked all the time what is the best way to farm for these, so I hope this can help you out. To start off, I would highly recommend having at least 500 of these going into the final shape. You want to have enough saved up to masterwork any new potential meta weapons, or have enough to even craft one. There are a couple different ways you can farm for these, but the easiest way is just to make sure you have the Core Harvest Ghost mod selected. This will grant you bonus cores whenever you complete a ritual activity, and this is one that just works in the background, and you pretty much get one or more every time you complete something. I honestly cannot stress how strong this ghost mod is, and a lot of people don't know about it. Now, if you want to be a little bit more active about it, you can also make sure you're doing daily gunsmith bounties on all 3 of your characters. There are going to be 4 gunsmith bounties, and each of them will grant 1 core, so 4 bounties with 3 characters will be 12 cores a day. I know that really doesn't sound like a lot, but if you start now leading up to the final shape, you will have a hefty amount of these saved up in your stash. Now, the final way to farm them is by running lost sectors. If you run these quickly, you can get around 2 to 4 every 30 seconds to a minute. What I tend to do is just check the lost sector each day, and if it's an easy one, you can go run this extremely fast and start farming these. Also, typically most of the easy ones are going to be on the EDZ, so if you see one on there, definitely go farm it. Now, some other interesting ways to get cores is the fact that you can turn your Enhancement Prisms and 2 Enhancement Cores. The way you do this is by buying a blue piece of armor from your collections, upgrading it to level 8, and then dismantling it. Now, while you're upgrading it, it will take your Enhancement Prisms, but since you are getting it to a high enough level, once you dismantle it, it will reward you with cores after it's gone. This is a nice trick to do if you have a lot of prisms or you plan on farming Grandmasters, so you're going to get them back anyway. Now, the final way to get them is if you have any finest matter weave left over. If you do, be sure to dismantle them, and they will grant you 1 core per matter weave. There really isn't a reason to hold on to these things unless it's sentimental for you, so if it isn't, definitely be sure to just get rid of these and start stacking up your cores. So with Enhancement Cores out the way, let's move on to some easier ones like upgrade modules. I would get the max amount of these, which is 25, so you can have things ready to be infused if you need to. Now, in previous DLCs, the first time you run the campaign, they typically reward you with a lot of upgrade modules so you can upgrade along the way, but it still is nice to save these just in case you run out and when you're getting ready to start your powerful cap grind. And if I'm being honest, the easiest way to get these is just buying them from the gunsmith. The next easy thing is raid banners. I would highly recommend at least having 200 of these. If you don't plan on raiding or doing anything that requires them, you could just skip this part. However, if you do plan on doing the day 1 raid, you want to have as many of these as you can so your fire team doesn't have to back out and go get more. You can purchase them from Hawthorne with legendary shards, and since the legendary shards are going away with final shape, I would highly recommend buying these before the launch. If every member of your fire team goes and buys 200 apiece, that means you will have a total of 1200 raid banners once the raid comes out, and surely your team is not going to wipe 1200 times, right? Now, on the topic of raids, if you do plan on doing the new one, I would highly recommend getting max spoils so you can get some of the new weapons. Max spoils is 240, and the best place to farm them right now is the Death Singer from Crota's Inn. Now, finally, I do want to give a mention to Paraversal Hauls. These can help you min-max your gear up to the soft cap, but if you plan on running the legendary campaign and it's the same as it was in Witch Queen and Lightfall, at the end of that, you're going to get gear that's 20 over the soft cap anyway. So if that is the case, there's practically no reason to save these, but if that isn't the case, or you just don't plan on running the legendary campaign, then this would be beneficial to save these to get to the power cap faster. Put it out there, I have saved these for both Witch Queen and Lightfall, and I have used a literal total of 0. So for that, I wouldn't stress about it too much, but if you want to save these up, that is totally something you can do, and you get them by completing Star Horse bounties. Now, as I've mentioned while talking about resources, the final thing I want to reiterate on is the fact that legendary shards are going to be going away when the final shape launches. You can use this to your advantage when it comes to saving other resources because you can purchase them with these legendary shards. There is 0 reason you should not be spending them right now. So if you see a weapon you want to focus, resources you want to buy, or even raid banners you want to buy, do not hold back. You can take this time to get rid of what's about to be a pointless resource and turn it into what's going to be valuable ones when the new DLC launches. Now, as I stated in the bounty portion of this video, if there is anything else coming with Into the Light, the spreadsheet and the description will be updated so you know exactly what other resources you need to save. Now, for the final part of this preparation, I'm labeling this one as miscellaneous. Most of these are just small things that can help you out but aren't super needed. However, there are some in here that you should remember to do. The first one being equipping the Blinding Light Ghost mod so you get 12% more experience from everything you do in the game. This will help you level up so much faster, which again can lead to more power, artifact perks, and even battle pass levels. As a side note, before turning in your bounties, make sure you have the new artifact in your inventory alongside having that ghost mod equipped. The worst thing you could do is start to turn your bounties in just to realize that the experience isn't going towards the new artifact. Next up on the list is cleaning your vault out. There are going to be a ton of new weapons with the final shape, and you don't want to have to stress what you should and should delete to save the new ones. So just go on and get this out the way so it's just one less thing you have to worry about when the final shape launches. On top of that, make sure your inventory is organized. Only carry the weapons and armor that you know you're going to be using, and if you have any unused consumables, just throw them in your vault or delete them if they can be deleted. A perfect example of this is the Charge of Light for the Blind Well. I'm sure in the final shape we won't be running that at all, so there is really no reason to save these in your inventory when you can just go buy them at Petra anytime. In the same vein of organizing, make sure you have all your loadout slots saved and ready to go. I would try to have at least one build for each subclass saved, so if you ever need to swap anything up, you can do it immediately. I'm sure there are going to be a ton of new builds when the final shape launches, and of course you can expect to see all of them on this channel, but this will help you out greatly in the legendary campaign. Other things that could help round out those builds are going to be getting Artifice armor and finishing your exotic collection. It's relatively easy to get Artifice armor now because you can just play comp or farm the first checkpoint of Warlord's Ruin on Master, and then to get the exotics that you don't have, be on the lookout for Vex incursions and easy farmable lost sectors. Now next up is weapons. I would highly recommend crafting some of the top tier weapons and of course some of the weapons that you care about before the launch. There are also some very good non-craftable weapons out there to farm right now, and it's something I would definitely recommend you do. Most notable are things like the Cataphract grenade launcher from Trials and the Indebted Kindness from Warlord's Ruin. I will have some future videos ranking all of these weapons and letting you know which ones should be on your radar, so definitely be on the lookout for that video. I will also have these videos linked in the spreadsheet just so you can easily click them over there if you are using the spreadsheet to help you prep. Now the final thing involving weapons is to make sure you have the catalyst unlocked for your exotics. Some of these catalysts can be very crucial to the weapon and you don't want to have to worry about doing them once the final shape comes out. Go on, get that out the way, and have some of the best weapons in the game to take on what's to come in the final shape. Now the final little things you can do is to make sure you finish all your Riven's wishes, finish up all the 801 bounties for additional transmog, and make sure you finish any triumphs or titles that you want to complete. Riven's wishes alongside some triumphs and titles will be going away with the launch of the final shape, so if you want any of them, you need to do them now. 801 bounties also reset at the start of a new season, so if you want to have as many opportunities as possible to transmog the new armor we are getting, I would definitely get these done right now so you have a new set available when the final shape launches. And for the final time, if anything changes with Into the Light, I will update the spreadsheet in the description of this video so you know exactly what you need to do. But with that, the preparation is coming to a close. This is everything I'm personally going to be doing leading into the launch of the final shape. I really hope you all enjoyed, and if you plan on doing anything else for your prep, feel free to drop a comment down below so you can potentially help someone else out. I know this has been an extremely long video, so if you made it this far, I truly appreciate it, and be sure to comment XP down below, and I'm going to try and give a heart out to every single one of them. I wish you all the best of luck with prepping, and I hope this helps you get some more enjoyment out of the final shape. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you all have a great day. Peace.